So Super Rugby Round 4 is in the bag now. If Friday games were all about the favourites having a win, Saturday showed us a few upsets. So in the first game, which was this kind of clash of the Titans game between the Hurricanes and the Crusaders, the Hurricanes showed this whole talk of travel is for suckers because they put some points on the Crusaders early. You know, we were all worried that they were going to come out slow, having just come back from a pretty long trip. But yeah, whatever the Crusaders did to the Stormers last week in terms of putting on early points, they had it done right back to them by the Hurricanes this week. So it was 21-0 pretty early on in this game. And, you know, from then on, the Crusaders were just chasing. So impressive start from the Hurricanes. Crusaders lost two guys early on. They lost Sam Whitelock and Ryan Crotty, which for their chances in the game was really not ideal because these are kind of your two players, regular All Blacks, so disappointing in that regard. But the credit to the Crusaders, they still came back in. From about 30 minutes, you could kind of feel them getting a bit of dominance in the game. And, I mean, still the Hurricanes managed to win it. But the Crusaders were challenging from that whole time. Their scrum looked dominant. Their maul was dangerous. So the Hurricanes, again, credit to them, did kind of figure it out towards the end of the match and kind of nullify what the Crusaders were doing. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of a topsy-turvy game. Kind of a match of two halves, just because the first half was really slick. Lots of good passes, good plays, tries. You know, fewer errors. In the second half, was not what Super Rugby is about. If the first half was an ad for Super Rugby, the second half was like one to be put on the cutting room floor because it was ugly. A bit of disappointing niggle in this game. Again, I know I harp on about all the pushing and shoving and swearing at each other and whatnot. Yeah, so referee had to warn a couple of guys about this again, pushing off the ball. There's no need for it. Just get it out of the game. Start penalising these guys if they're going to be silly. Scrum resets were a bit just a time waster. It's kind of a pity for the fans who've paid money to go to the games that they're just watching scrums be reset after reset. Some of the passes looked a bit forward, but I mean sometimes it's just the angle when you're watching at home on the TV. But yeah, the Hurricanes coach, although they got the win, be disappointed with their kind of sluggish performance in the second half. Crusaders coach will be happy that they showed some mettle to kind of come back into it after putting such a big, coming back from such a big kind of deficit. But yeah, still not enough, couldn't get it done. Mitchell Hunt's fine, but you really want Richie Mo'unga back as soon as you can if you're a Crusaders fan. But yeah, basically the Hurricanes are back. That's the story of this round. If you'd written them off because of their result against the Bulls and not given them credit for that kind of scrappy win against the Jaguares, here you go, they're back into it. And the Crusaders are mortal. They can be beaten. So, you know, it's nice when you have strong teams, but for everybody else, it kind of sucks when there's that one team which is just, you know, leaving everyone else for dead. So yeah, it's a good result for Super Rugby. It makes the whole comp just look that little bit more interesting. Crusaders have got the Highlanders next week away, which suddenly becomes a much more interesting fixture because they've just lost an away game. And the Hurricanes have earned a rest, so they'll be on the bye. So good for them. Yeah, like I said, good result all round. Good game to watch, some good tries, and yeah, just a more interesting competition overall. In the next game, I managed to see this one live, so which is good. Same with the first one, obviously. The Reds down the Bulls 20-14, so a pretty close affair. Bulls took the lead pretty early in a nice try, but the Reds, this is a young side which is showing some composure and some character. They're a fighting side, so they didn't give up. They had a lot of the ball. A lot of the ball in this game. Less than you would think. No, sorry, more than you'd think based on the close scoreline. You might think that it was a pretty even game, but the Reds probably should have had more points. How they didn't score sometimes was kind of beyond me. there was a while when I really thought they weren't going to score. And I thought to myself, because the Bulls had scored a pretty nice try, and I was thinking, you can beat the Brumbies on penalties because the Brumbies don't score that many tries, but you're not going to be able to do that against every side, and maybe not going to be able to do it against the Bulls. But eventually the tries came, so Timu and Toa got a couple of tries, which were good. There could have been more, like I said, but again, the Bulls also showed some character and still hung in there. The Brumbies were getting a bit dominated last week at set piece. The Reds still had the advantage there in this game, but maybe not as much as what we saw last week. So yeah, some big hits, really big hits. There was one kind of comical moment where Tupou had made Tongantoa had made a hit on, was it Duncan Matthews? And even the ref, who was a former player, was kind of like, oh, that looked like it hurt. You could hear him on the microphone off camera. So, yeah, some really big hits. But I swear the tackle count, the highest number would be to the pitch itself, because guys just kept slipping over. I don't know what's up with the ground over there, or if it's just the weather, because it's kind of a humid place. Yeah, guys need better boots or something to play in Queensland, because lots of guys falling over. But yeah, Warner had a really good game for the Bulls. He ran well, just directed the team, showed some good D. And Aiden Toa was impressive for the Reds. I never really rated him that much, but he looks better at the Reds than he did at the Brumbies, that's for sure. So yeah, and I also put a note that the Reds do the whole celebration thing properly. I said there was niggle in that first game with guys pushing each other and stuff. The Reds, at least from what we can see on camera and what I've seen, when they get something right, if they win a scrum penalty or a turnover or whatever, they just get around each other and just celebrate for that moment. It's not about like shaming the other guys or trying to wind them up. It's just about, hey, good on you guys, let's crack on. So I prefer that personally. I know competitive sports and whatnot, but still. So for the Reds, this is another step in their road to improving on the Super Rugby kind of ladder, because they've been at the lower end for a few years now. For the Bulls, not the ideal start to their tour. I think they would have looked to get a result here, because it does get tricky. But I mean, they got a bonus point, so take that. They've got the Chiefs away next week, who'll be well rested after having a bye, and probably some players who were injured will be back. The Reds are on the plane, flying to Argentina to play a rejuvenated Jaguares side, so that will be an interesting matchup. Third game of the round, so this is the Sharks against the Sunwolves. The Sharks weren't having any of this upset business. They went to town. I didn't see this game live. This was in the middle of the night here in New Zealand, so they put on a whole bunch of tries against the Sunwolves, so 50 points to 22. I mean, it's not a surprise. It's what we all expected. It was what the bookies kind of predicted, that there would be a lot of points put on. And it was just exactly what they wanted. I think for the Sharks, this is just what the doctor ordered. They needed to get their season underway. They've got their first win. They did it convincingly. And they need to kick on from here. They need to do this against some teams other than the Sunwolves. For the Sunwolves, I mean, I know they had some players back from injury, but they need to get everybody back. They need to just recover and probably get this road trip just out of the way, and maybe look to the second half of the season to build on, because it doesn't look like it's going to be pretty. Yeah, so the Sharks get the result they wanted, showed some really good finishing. Their line-out was good. They had to make 182 tackles, which was a lot more than the Sunwolves had to make, and they missed more tackles than the Sunwolves made. I'm sure their percentage is better because they had to make more, but still, Sunwolves improving in that whole missed tackle thing from last season, which is, if nothing else, kind of something to go about. But yeah, just clinical from the Sharks. 10 penalties conceded though. I think the Sunwolves only had 4. So again, not everything went their way, even though the scoreboard is so one-sided. Sunwolves, a lot of phases, a lot of runs, but also a lot of handling errors. So not ideal. And they lost a couple of their own line-out throws. So again, they need to get some tall timber in the lineup ASAP. Yeah, the Sunwolves need to get their players back, and the Sharks just need to go on, because it's all well and good to win against the Sunwolves at home, but yeah, they need to do it against the proper opposition. Not that the Sunwolves aren't proper position, but you know what I mean. They've got so many players out. They've just lost 2 games on the road, at home, and now they're on the road. So they got them at the perfect time. Sunwolves travel away to the Lions. See what I mean? Like, it doesn't get any easier. And Sharks get on the road to play the Brumbies. So Brumbies are a team that's hurting, and they need to capitalize on that to really be a contender for this season. The next result, the Blues. They beat the Lions. Someone's driving by. Yeah, so the Blues, unbelievably, the winless Blues beat the unbeaten Lions. How many of you guys tipped this? Not many. Now, I didn't see this game live. Call me a traitor, call me an idiot. I went to bed because I stayed up to watch the Reds Bulls because I was sure it was going to be such a good close game between 2 even teams, and I was sure this was going to be a blowout to the Lions. So I slept through it. But before you call me too much of an idiot, I shut myself off to the world because I knew they were replaying this game at 4 p.m. New Zealand time. So all day I've been sitting there, no internet, no TV, no radio. I've just been doing dad stuff and doing like everything else I could, which was not like any way connected to the media. I did watch this game, and they almost got me because at halftime they said another result to the round before I quickly muted the TV and looked away. So they almost got me, but I was legitimately uninformed about this game. So yeah, I was watching it on the edge of my seat legitimately without any prior knowledge of what happened. So yeah, a massive result for the Blues, obviously. And just like the Crusaders losing, it kind of shows that the Lions are also mortal. Early mistakes by the Blues were punished. I thought that it was going to be a pretty long night after that first try went in. And I mean, the Blues had a lot of the ball. They were attacking. But for so long, they just couldn't get any reward for it. Every time the Lions would just manage to spoil it and get a turnover, or something would happen, and I was just thinking, same old Blues, it's not going to happen for them. And when the Lions would get the ball, they would just score. Like, Blues were on attack. Nana offloads to Sonny Bill, can't handle it. Van Rensburg gets it. Try time. I was just thinking it was going to be one of those nights, but you know, eventually the Blues got it done. They were 28-10 down, the Blues. And again, I was just thinking, oh, yep, it's kind of what we all expected. But they actually showed some character. The Lions will be really disappointed they weren't able to put this one away. Handling from both teams wasn't great. It wasn't a real classic in terms of that, even though we still got quite a few good tries. The Ioane brothers won't be popular in Johannesburg because they had pretty good nights. Yanchi's had a pretty good game. Yeah, Deante had a good try. Intercept read that pretty well. Could have had another one. I thought the decision-making from the Blues towards the end of the game was pretty poor. They took a quick line out at one point when they didn't need to. And, you know, they got a charge down, which, if not for a slight knock-on, could have been a try to the Lions. We know on kickoff receipt, so I think if the Lions had got that, that would have been game over. But yeah, man, I'm kind of lost at words to say because I just really can't believe how well the Blues did to get into this game. Their scrum was actually competitive. They didn't get rolled over by the Lions. But yeah, this will give them some confidence. And for the Lions, we just kind of need to see if this was just an off week or if there is some vulnerability there, because they didn't have all that much ball. Their scrum didn't look that dominant. I mean, like, they scored some good tries and they made the Blues look pretty silly at a few points. But when you're 28-10 up, you probably should, at home, you should be going on to win this one. So they'll be really disappointed with that end result. The Lions have got the Sunwolves next week at home, so they'll bounce back straight away and want to possibly give some other guys a run who haven't had much game time yet. And I think, I should mention the Whiteley went off pretty early for the Lions, so maybe he was pretty sorely missed, because for a while there the Blues, like, they would get a few penalties and they couldn't score, so they just started kicking at goal, and he was missing those. It was all Lions for so long, but yeah, like I said, Whiteley going off was probably not ideal for them. Their injury list is starting to build on their own. So yeah, Blues go away to the Stormers, who are travelling back after their long tour. So man, if the Blues can get another away win, go 2 from 2 in South Africa, they'll be, dare I say it, possibly back on track. So yeah, big result. I'll be watching that pretty keenly. And the last game of the round. So another team which was winless, the Jaguares, finally got their season off to a start at last with a 38-28 win over the Waratahs. For the Waratahs, I think we kind of saw a bit of that team which we saw last season kind of come back, because they were pretty poor for much of this game. This is another game where a team had a blistering start. So we had it from the Hurricanes, we had it from the Lions, and we had it from the Jaguares, where they just put on some early points. I mean, Sharks, I'm not even going to... You guys just smashed them. So, yeah, Jaguares went out to a 26-0 lead in this game. It was just try after try after try. It was just almost like ridiculous how they were just scoring so frequently. Sanchez ran the team really well. Crevy looked really fired up. He got some turnovers. He was making tackles. He was like talking it up at scrum time. So he wanted a result. For the Tars, it was just too many errors. Man, if you're a Tars fan, you'd be pulling your hair out, because every time they got it, they started doing something with it, they'll just stuff it up. So yeah, pretty painful stuff from them. Like I wrote down a few things like not finding touch, taking a quick tap when there was no one to support them, getting penalised for truck and trailer, losing their own line out after kicking it out. So it was just, yeah, like I say, man, you'd be pulling your hair out if you're a Tars fan. The Waratahs did manage to pile on the points at the end. They scored, pretty repeatedly, but it was, again, they're kind of too little too late. For the Jaguares, man, you threw away a bonus point. You've had such a bad start to the season. You did not need to be throwing away a bonus point after such a good start to the season. You need to be showing some killer instinct and, keep your foot on the gas when you're at the position. It's not the first time the Jaguares have done that as well, where they've had kind of a team just down and out, and then they've just kind of eased off and let it go, and the other team's capitalised. So, yeah, Falau's try was just straight from that kickoff at the end, and that's what cost the Jaguares a bonus point. So, yeah, Holloway scored a good try from his spot. Yeah, like I said, the Boffelli scored 2 and Tukulet 1 really early on. It was, yeah, all catch up for the Waratahs that week. So, yeah, what a big week. Yeah, upsets kind of galore. Like I said, that one was predicted to be close, but I didn't see the Hurricanes winning it just based on form. I would have picked the Bulls if I'd been tipping, to be fair. Sharks won, went according to plan. That's an upset. That's an upset. So, yeah, Super Rugby, maybe it's back. Last year there were so many one-sided results. Maybe we're kind of getting back into a bit of proper, no easy games kind of rugby. But, yeah, Waratahs, I think, are back. Who are they playing next week? The Rebels. The Rebels at home. It's going to be interesting because I'm about to do my power rankings. I'm going to have to go back and look at all the results and do my thing. But with the Lions and the Crusaders losing, the Rebels might be able to make a bump. I'll have to look at the numbers and see how we go. But it is going to be interesting. Sunwolves still winless. I think who's unbeaten now? The Rebels and the Highlanders. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, interesting times. Let me know what you guys thought of the round. I'm sorry this video is a bit late, but like I said, I had to wait until 4 p.m. New Zealand time to watch this Blues replay in no knowledge of what was going to happen. Pretty happy I did that. It seemed to work out. I was pretty regretting my decision once the Lions scored their first early try. But I mean, this game was won in like pretty much 79th minute, so it was an ad for what Super Rugby is all about. Anyway, like I said, let me know your thoughts on the round, what you thought of the games, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again probably tomorrow for some power rankings. See you later.